should I say I'm Australia, Sarah? Because I've cured jet lag, everybody. And the cure to jet lag is to drink a lot of rosé. And they have like rosé in a can down here. It's like a little sparkling. And I'm telling you, it is the only way I feel like a normal human right now. But I've been going around just being like, Australia, Sarah loves rosé.
Australia, Sara loves rosé.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
I'm Allie.
Speaking of Australia, I feel like we have a lot to discuss. Obviously, we have got a ton of games, and that's what we are about to jump into. But before we do, I just kind of want to give everybody a vibe of what it's like over here at the tournament in the land down under. What do you say, Allie?
I was going to say, yeah, let us live vicariously through you. Come on.
I feel like for those of you who were there 4 years ago, there was really nothing in France to indicate that there was a World Cup happening.
No, I remember seeing lots of adverts for the Rugby World Cup that was happening 3 months later, but...
Right. Like, there was not really a fan park. There was a big Jumbotron somewhere in a park, but it wasn't like a fan park. It is the complete opposite here. The Australians, I obviously haven't been to New Zealand, but I'm sure they're doing it the same. But the Australians, they have done it big. They've done it well. They've gotten behind the tournament, and you just walk around the city and you know it's happening. You can't really go anywhere without seeing a sign. They seem to have just so much pride in it, and it's so amazing to see. I'm absolutely loving it. I actually spoke to a few guys who I sat next to at the Netherlands-South Africa game, a few Aussies. And I was asking them just like, what is the vibe amongst the Australians? Are you happy to host this tournament? Do you like that the world has descended? Are you all rallying behind the Matildas? Like, are you happy about this? What is the vibe? And they basically just said that they're very happy. Soccer isn't like the sport in Australia, but the vibe among the Australians, they said, is that it's a sporting country. And they all know and love soccer. And so when these major tournaments roll around, they go hard. And they are clearly, based on obviously that packed house at the round of 16 game that we're going to talk about, Matildas versus Denmark, they are really, really rallying behind the Matildas. Something special is certainly happening here in Australia. I really think so.
So before we do a little bit of housekeeping, should we talk about the big talking point that has come out of these round of 16 games?
Let's do it. I don't know what you're going to say.
That would be Melby Gate. Melby versus Melbs. Oh my goodness, have I not seen such a thing that came out?
It was so funny.
It was hilarious. And my favourite, so for anybody who isn't on social media and didn't see, the US national team official Twitter put up this thing about being like, under the lights in Melby, and every Australian was like, what the F did you just call it?
Like, not in a funny way, too. They were like, no. Hard no.
Yeah, they were angry. And then, like, they were like, it's Melbs, guys, it's Melbs. And so, like, Alex Morgan did it in a press conference, was like, we thought that they would like it because they abbreviate everything, didn't realise it already had an abbreviation, and all of this.
Well, somebody asked her about it, and she was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't heard of this, but, we're sorry.
And then, because sometimes social media can be a genius, the Swedish national team official Twitter account posted a photo being like, training in daylight, or training this morning in Melbs. And it was like...
It was
yes,
so good.
Yes.
You know what? Respect to the US for not deleting that tweet, though. Like, they could have very much just deleted it and reposted with Melbs, and they left it. You know, good for them.
So, we've just got a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the meat of the episode. We have been releasing every Tuesday and every Friday. However, with the group stages done and we're now in the knockouts, we're changing our schedule to match the football. So as you are listening, this is our part 1 episode of the round of 16. That is dropping as normal on Tuesday. You will then get another episode finishing off the round of 16, which will drop on Wednesday, so you get 2 episodes back to back, but that will be in place of your Friday episode. We will then drop an episode on Sunday, which will cover all of the quarters, and then we'll go from there. Scheduling, my friends, has been fun.
let's do it. We've got a lot of games to cover, okay? Where this is bold of us. We are doing, there are 8 round of 16 games, and we are doing 6 of them in this episode. So this is going to be the meteor of the episodes. Let's just say that. This is going to be part 1 and 1.5.
We're ripping the Band-Aid off. We have to talk about Sweden, USA.
We could spend the whole episode talking about this game. We're not going to. We're going to keep it short. I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to try to condense it. To anybody who subscribes to our Patreon, first of all, thank you. And second of all, I feel like I maybe need to apologize for however emotional I was on our recording last night.
I was surrounded by 3 very sad Americans when we recorded our Patreon.
I think it was like a mixture of sad and anger, and we just didn't know where to go and what to say.
It was like a death.
Yeah, it really was. The only thing that keeps replaying in my mind was you told me, because I hadn't seen that Juilliard's quote that she'd said that this might be the last time she plays in the U.S. national team crest, and I just went off.
Yeah.
And
I got yelled
it
at.
came from a place of denial. Like, it was just straight up denial. I was like, it's not true. Period. The end. Before we get into the game, I do have a fun way to kick this off. Maybe to the US fans this will help. I don't know. It's definitely going to help me. I have 2 quick stories about the fan zone, because I watched this in the fan zone in Sydney. It was absolutely packed to the brim with US women's national team fans. The vibes ahead of time were hilariously awful. There was this Australian performer, and they were absolutely crushing it. Incredible music, incredible live music. But everybody in the fan park clearly was just too stressed to do anything but sit there
and just contemplate life.
It was absolutely packed to the brim. And once the broadcast started, the walkout started, we did the anthem, and then they did the lineups. And then people were cheering as different players were being announced in the stadium. And then after they announced the starting lineup in the stadium, they announced the head coach. And I thought we were all on the same page in the fan zone. So everybody's cheering, cheering, cheering. And then Vladko, and I didn't even think about it. It just came out of me, this guttural, just boo. And nobody else was doing that. And the person I was sitting with was just Sarah, inappropriate. You got to at least wait until halftime. I was I thought we were all on the same page here. Go team, boo Vladko. But that was hilarious. Second is there were obviously everybody was deeply into the game. And there was people were just yelling at the screen the whole time. And I wrote down some pretty funny quotes that I heard across the board. Are you ready for this?
Yep, do it.
Okay, so randomly at some point in the second half, I just heard, "Somebody do something!" About 15 minutes into the first half, I heard, "Wow, the answer was Sonnet all along."
Which I agree with. We'll get into it, but that's great.
I can't tell you how many times I just heard, "Sub! Sub! Sub!" It was really great. Good vibes, I have to say. I have to start by saying that I owe Hedvig Lindahl. First of all, thank you for coming on our podcast. That was incredible. I owe you a congratulations. I said I would congratulate you if Sweden won, and I owe you a congratulations. And so this is my congratulations. I sent you a DM as well, but we'll say that we know you're listening because now you're a fan of the pod. So a public congratulations from me.
But yeah, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the tactics, and we'll talk USA first with it, which is, we kind of touched on it in the intro, but the big change and the big thing that was right was the double pivot. Sonnet was the answer all along.
Saucy Son.
Yeah.
She was saucy in this game. And it was funny because when this lineup got announced, it obviously didn't get announced in the formation. And so there was chatter. Some people thought that Sonnet was going to be in the back line and Ertz was actually pushing up. I personally did not. I saw this and I was like, this is a double pivot. I said that because we saw Sonnet come on into that position in the previous game. So frankly, this was a great move. This was how many times have I said to you, Allie, like Vlatko Andonovski needs to learn how to be creative, and you cannot win a title. Like you can't advance, you can't play well in a tournament without being somewhat flexible and creative. This was the creativity we were looking for all along. He was forced into it by Rose Lavelle's yellow card situation. It forced his hand. And yeah, Sonnet was the answer all along. If you saw this and you knew it was right, massive congratulations. Because I think a lot of people saw it and were like, huh? But this was the right answer. Why it took us this long to go back to the double sixes, which we tried 2 years ago and it worked really well, and then somehow decided to leave that behind, I'm not sure. But Emily Sonnet, take a bow. I mean, big player coming through in a big game. And I think she was put in there because Vlatko Andonovski needed the physicality that Julie Ertz would have brought to the six. And he basically created a Julie Ertz, combining the physicality of Emily Sonnet with the passing ability of Andy Sullivan. And it worked really well.
It did. And, you know, game recognises game. Jess Fishlock tweeted, also mad respect to Sonnet to come in as a 6, knowing it was going to be crucial, and then put in a performance like that. Hat tipped, my friend. And that's so correct. Sonnet came in and was such a spark, such a life force for the US team. You know, I think I tweeted it was like 11 minutes, 35 seconds, the source begins, because she was just so passionate and was just there, and like her gameplay was phenomenal. Like she made the right interceptions, she made the right like tactical tackles, she was like up and down that pitch. So I would love to see her heat map, because she was literally everywhere on that pitch. Like I don't think there was a blade of grass she didn't cover. And it was effective. It wasn't like mindless headless chicken running around. She was in the right spots at the right time. She had a couple of shots on goal, for crying out loud. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I did laugh in that there was one moment where she found herself at the top of the 18 and it kind of looked like her brain short-circuited, and it was like a defender in front of goal, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What happens now?
Yeah, she was like, wait, I'm not meant to be here. What's going on?
Yeah. What has happened? No, she played absolutely out of her mind, and I almost want to give credit to Laura Harvey, who was the first person I've seen, at least in Emily Sonnet's professional career, to push Sonnet into the number 6 position.
Sonnet said it herself. Sonnet has said it herself. She did an interview with Kelly O'Hara.
She credited Laura Harvey there?
Yeah, she did an interview with Kelly O'Hara before the tournament, and Kelly O'Hara asked that, and she went, yeah, I'm a defender to be pushed this forward. I trust Laura Harvey, and yes, it's meant I've done more running, which she was like, I don't appreciate, but she was
spoken as a true defender.
But yeah, she's completely credited Laura Harvey for changing her mentality and her, like, giving her the chance to be this 6, and I think it's fantastic, because I think it's the best Sonnet I've ever seen.
It definitely plays to her strengths, and Laura Harvey, potential U.S. Women's National Team future head coach, will come on to that. But Emily Sonnet, we know as a center back that her strength, one of her strengths, was her ability to step up and make runs into the midfield. And this somehow just really ends up playing to her strengths, this role, whether she can play the 6 on her own, yet to be really determined. But in this double pivot, she just was everywhere. And I also want to add the mentality that Sonnet comes with. You know that when Emily Sonnet comes in a game, or is just in any game, she's going to get into it. She's going to get stuck in the tackles, and she's going to bring that energy and that fire. And the U.S. needed that. Not that necessarily that was lacking in other players, but in this game, they needed the physicality in that number 6 position, and Sonnet brought it. Of course, Sweden's goalkeeper was the player of the match, but U.S.-centric, Emily Sonnet was the player of the match for this team.
100%. I 100% agree with that. You know, and as we've said, like, you know, we'll give credit where credit's due. Yes, he was forced, but the formation going in to unlock Sweden was bang on, was perfect. Like, for the game that you were trying to play, like, just got everything right.
Yeah, and you know what? Across the board, every single player on this field should be proud of the performance that they put in this game. And I've seen a lot of chatter about different performances, and obviously we've seen better performances from Alex Morgan. Like, let's just touch on that first. Yes, this was not a great performance from her across the board in this tournament, and it took her a really long time to get into this game. But by the time she came out, she was actually creating some of the best opportunities that we had. Now, did I think it was the right move to take her out? In that moment, yes. But that was a pivotal moment that I think that we saw where Vlatko Andonovski was absolutely lacking in his ability to make the right decision tactically for the U.S. And I said, I don't remember at what point during the game, but I remember saying, this is where he runs into problems, because in this moment, we had Trinity Rodman had come off. She played absolutely fantastic. We can go through all the players, but I think we're just going to say they had a great game, right?
It was the best. I said it on the Patreon episode, and I'll say it again here. It was the best performance I have seen the US in this tournament. They were perfect. Like, for the US, they were brilliant. Like, the way they were playing, it was like US of old. Like, I know, daggers into Sarah's heart.
My heart is bleeding right now. I think I think that's what hurts more. It's the twisting of the knife. Yeah, it is the twisting of the knife to see what the U.S. could have been had they been managed correctly, had they had the correct tactics. And the twist of the knife is to see really how well they were able to gel in a formation with personnel who had never, like, Sonnet had never stepped into that 6 alongside Sullivan. And for them to play that well in that game, like, it is truly the twist of the knife. It obviously hurts to go out. It obviously hurts to play so well and go out. But that is the added element of it that is so utterly painful. And real quick, to just go back to the substitutions, because we are talking about tactics. I mentioned, Trinity Rodman, she had come off at this moment. She had played so well. Lynn Williams came on and she was a stud. And it was very clear that the U.S. were getting tired. And Sweden had more subs, had more fresh legs. And at a certain point, you have to worry when you're coming up against so many fresh legs and you're in extra time and your legs are tired. What is the inflection point that you just need to get fresh legs on the field? And that, I think, is the decision that Vlatko Andonovski was left with, wanting to take, Alex Morgan off and push Smith into that number 9 position where she was playing so well in the center of the pitch that game. I hope to see her in that more. But it was clear that Vlatko Andonovski was, like, oscillating on the sideline. Okay, I have Pino, I have Alyssa Thompson. Who goes in? And do we like either of those options? And do I put those, trying to make a decision?
I think for me, as a neutral, and I was a genuine neutral because I love this matchup. I said it with Hedvig. I said it. The USA-Sweden, for me, as a neutral, is one of my favourite ties. I said, as a neutral, when he swapped Morgan out for Pino, I said, mainly to the cat, that he is playing for penalties. He's playing for penalties. The decision to bring Pino in over Thompson is they're not trying to win this game in the extra time. They've gone, right, Pino's in, we're going for penalties. And it was the same when O'Hara and Mewis came on for, like, the briefest of seconds.
That's funny. I didn't see that as for the Pino sub. It was very clear what the Mewis and O'Hara substitution was, which was, these are our penalty kick takers. Pino, I just felt like he wanted to pick between fresh legs between Alyssa Thompson and Megan Rapinoe, and he picked Megan Rapinoe. Was it the right choice? I don't think so. Pino is an absolute legend, and I understand why he wanted her on for penalties, but we have to understand that she has been rusty, rightfully so. She hadn't played soccer in 3 months, and she hadn't had the best tournament. Now, at this point, you're picking a veteran over a rookie ever, an 18-year-old. But this is also my gripe with Vlatko Andonovski is, why don't you get a little bit creative here? How can we get creative? You want to put a winger on? Why don't you put on an outside back and push Crystal Dunn up? There are other ways to do this. You don't just have 2 options. And that is where I feel like he has truly let down in one of the ways he has let down this team. And that was very disappointing. But, I mean, you mentioned pens, just to say as the game as a whole, this was a game for the U.S. to take. This was theirs. They were the better team. There is absolutely no way anybody can argue that. Case in point, like, it's just, that's what it was. They were the better team. But it was their job to not let it go to penalties.
They should have buried it in the 90 minutes. Not even the 120. Not even in the 120. The way that they were knocking on that door, yes, Misevic had one of the greatest games we'll talk about when we talk about Sweden, but they should have buried it in the 90 minutes, and they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is a perfect transition to talk about it because I think that there's like two schools of thought, and I don't think you have to be one or the other. I don't care how good Musovic was. You have to put away the goal. You cannot just say, well, okay, that's everything. That's the most that we could do. And she just happened to come up better that day. You have to put away the goal, period, the end. You have to make sure, as the better side, you don't go to penalties. And sometimes it doesn't happen. This isn't me, for lack of a better term, sorry, like shitting on them. It's really not. I'm just, that was the game. And I think we could all smell it coming as the game continued to progress, as the U.S. continued to not be able to hit the back of the net. And that doesn't mean we're taking away credit from Musovic because, oh my God.
Talking about Sweden. So, we had Enya Luka and Fran Kirby as our pundits over in the UK. And Fran Kirby was asked at half-time and at full-time and at the half-time of the extra time, what is Sweden's game plan? And she was like, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do. It feels like they're just trying to get set pieces. I don't understand what they're trying to do because there's no we're going to punt it, like Hedvig said, we're going to punt it forward and get Blackstenius on the end of a ball. We're going to, even in the Euros, it was like, get it to Asllani. Like, we knew whether it was successful or not, we knew what they were trying to do. This game, it did feel a bit like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to just get set pieces? Because you're not, Musovic is not punting it up to your forwards. You're playing out from the back. You're getting dispossessed quite easily by that US midfield. What are you trying to do?
Yeah. I mean, Musovic was honestly, who else would you even call out on that field that had a good game? Frankly, nobody for Sweden. And Musovic looked shaky in the first 10 minutes, and she pulled it together. As a very funny side note, somebody posted on Twitter, a side-by-side of Musovic and Hope Solo, and I was just like, that's why she looks so familiar. Because I was staring at her the whole game, why do I feel like I've seen you play, a lot before?
She does have a look of hope about her.
Yeah, and I mean, she channeled it. She certainly channeled it in this game. Massive credit to her. But Sweden, do we have to touch on, is this the Sweden trend? Is this, we're going to play really well and we are going to at some point crumble?
Yeah, no, I do. I feel it. So we discussed it. I'm going to keep dropping her name because we can't believe we got her. But when we discussed it in the preview with Lindahl, she said that, there has been an element with Sweden being, the bridesmaid but never the bride. And we said that, they hit a certain point and then they can go no further. And it does feel a bit like that it could have been this US game because they weren't playing fantastically. But then Musovic came and had the game of her life. It's probably some of the best football I've ever seen, and I see her quite weird because she plays in the WSL. The best game of her life, and then it comes down to nerve when it comes to the penalties, and that's basically what it is. Because, again, not to discredit Sweden, but you look at the US penalties, Musovic went the wrong way every single time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're giving Musovic a lot of credit, well deserved. Can we give Alyssa Nair a little bit of a props right now, because throughout that entire game, she was huge. And in the penalty, she was as big time as they come. She buried her own penalty down the middle.
Which, can I just say, it was one of the funniest things, again, on Twitter with the banter, where it was Nair in the, 5 to take the penalties. It was on the face, be like, for God's sake, I'll do it myself.
Oh, that's brutal. Shall I move along into the emotional part of this? And I'll say it quickly because we spent a lot of time on this, on Sweden versus the US. I just, first of all, I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of this team. I don't think it gets said enough specifically about this team. I am always so very proud to be a US men's national team fan. This is the only team in the entire world that I ride or die for, and I don't say that lightly. I will die on this hill defending them. And I was actually at 1 a.m. on the phone with my girlfriend, almost in tears, just saying, I'm just so proud of them. I just want them to be happy. They're just so amazing. And that's just genuinely how I feel. But, moving forward, I think there's two parts to this. There's obviously the tactical question, and Laura Harvey has spoken and basically said, I've been here before where my name is the first one dropped about the potential next head coach. And that happened to me 4 years ago. So I'm not even going to think about this right now. All I know is that at some point I'd love her to coach the team, and that I think Vlatko Andonovski needs to go back to coaching club. The second piece I'll say is that I just really, along the lines of saying that I am so very proud of this team and so very proud to be a U.S. Women's National Team fan, I guess I just have to address the negativity that has been the cloud around this tournament.
You have to.
Yeah, you just have to, because it's sadly been what's in the center of the conversation. And that's never really happened before, I think, for the U.S. And I'm just going to be really blunt here because I have to. Fox Sports has perpetuated this dark, negative cloud and, frankly, should be embarrassed. There is a difference between holding a team to a high standard and crossing a line and pandering to viewers with right-wing political undertones that do polarize the team. Alexi Lawless tweeted that he said, like, don't kill the messenger. I'm just the messenger telling you that this team has always been polarizing. This team has not always been polarizing. They have been polarized by right-wing media. And that's exactly what was happening in this tournament because Fox had the exclusive rights, and that was how we could watch it in the US.
Yeah, I literally said this to my wife. I was like, it's funny to me that, like, obviously we wanted her to play, but Becky Sauber are not playing because they can't go after Becky, who does exactly the same thing as Pino. You know, she is, you know, she's gay rights, she is trans rights, she is, you know, equal pay. She was one of the big ones in, you know, getting that collective bargaining and everything else. They can't go after Becky Sauburn like they can with Pino because Becky Sauburn is straight, white, Midwest, blonde, blue-eyed.
And it's a demeanor thing. Like, they both have a confidence, but Fox can't target Becky's demeanor because the way she presents is so humble. She has the exact same confidence level as Pino, and I've heard her speak like that as well, but it doesn't rub them the wrong way like Pino does, probably for the exact reasons you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, and they are vilifying Pino because you know, and it's coming from her ex-teammate as well, which I find so disgusting. I mean, I refuse to say her full name now. I am not a fan of Ms. Lloyd. I've never been a fan of Ms. Lloyd. Anybody who knows me says it's my greatest ambition to get blocked by her on Twitter. Because I can't stand it.
It's not that hard.
It's really, I've tried and she still won't block me. And it is disgusting in the fact that it's basically, they're like, well, if you weren't so woke. And I loved the response from somebody who just showed the penalty that Lloyd missed in 2011, being like, were you woke then? Were you woke then?
I didn't see what, obviously, because I'm here in Australia, I didn't see what any of them had to say after the game, but the Sweden game, but I really hope that they were reasonable and proud of how this U.S. performed. But first of all, I obviously agree with you in that you don't cross that line into criticizing your ex-teammate's character, but it should come as no surprise. She criticized their character while she was a part of the team as well. But yeah, you know, this team is actually something that historically has united everybody, and the vibe around the fans of this team has always been fun and let's go watch our team play, and we love this team with all of our heart. And slowly it has become, and we know the inflection point was obviously 2019. You know, Fox Sports has really polarized this and used the team as a political pawn to talk about, like you said, you know, equality. And just to finish on the Carly Lloyd comments, there is a very big difference between criticism and the demolition of character. And that's where people cross the line. I feel like I just criticized Vlatko. I've criticized the U.S. throughout this tournament, but I also have come from a place of understanding and hope and looking at these people as people and not just objects. And I'll finish on a positive because I just want to put some positive out here because I love this team and I'm proud of this team and I'm very hopeful about this future.
I was going to say, your future is so bright. Your future is so bright.
So bright.
You look at the talent, like for me, we can touch on everybody on this, but another standout for you was Naomi Girma. Girma was beautiful in this game and has been all tournament. So you've got Alana Cook, who unfortunately didn't get any minutes. You've got Naomi Girma, you've got Trinity Rodman, you've got Ashley Sanchez, you have got Sophia Smith, Emily Fox. You've got so much beautiful, creative, wonderfully talented rookies that are coming up through this system. So it's a blip in US history as it stands, but your future is so bright. So bright coming through.
And I don't even want to call it a blip. Like, well, just first of all, how long ago did I say that Naomi Girma and Emily Fox were the future of this national team? So very long ago. And here they are. And I'm so, so proud of how all of the youngsters had such great tournaments. I think anybody that's been criticized is like a veteran, you know? But anyways, we're here to finish on the positive. And I totally agree with you. The future is so bright. I don't even want to call this a blip because it's important. And this is just sports. Like, what is so beautiful about this team is that they are always and have always been leading the way on and off the field, frankly. And you can dislike that, but that's just history. And I'm so, so proud of that specifically. Like, that is what people who fell in love with the U.S. women's national team fell in love with. It is actually not just what they do on the field. It is what they are able to do off of the field. And the fact that those two are equally important to this team and to the fans of this team. And we will rebuild and we will figure it out. The future is bright. Like, this is just sports. This is what happens. Nobody wins a championship every year. It is impossible. And I have more hope than I've had since the 2021 Olympics for this team. And it's going to be great. From USA Sweden to England versus Nigeria, from one team who was absolutely the worst team in the 120 minutes and won the penalty kicks, to another team who was possibly the worst team in the 120 minutes and won on penalty kicks. England versus Nigeria. Allie, I know you specifically. You texted me, oh no, we are Sweden.
I do believe I may have used some fruitier language than that, but yes. Yeah, this tournament's going to kill me. This tournament is going to kill me. Kill me.
Why do you think I'm drinking rosé?
Yeah. As I said to the group, guys, they're like, how are you doing? I'm like, well, I spent 130 minutes stressed and feeling sick, and then I felt really hungry.
Just so everybody knows, we are recording this immediately after there was England-Nigeria, immediately followed by Australia-Denmark, and then here we are. So Allie is probably still reeling right now. So that's the perfect time to get you on a mic and ask you for your thoughts on this, because there's a lot to talk about here. And I don't know if I want to jump right into the spiciness. I kind of feel like I don't. I want to start at the higher level and say, right off the bat, Nigeria took it to England, and England absolutely looked like a different team than the last time that we saw them. They were on their back foot, and this game was open right from the jump.
I am going to quote the ex-England goalkeeper Rachel Finnis with, "There are no deserving teams in football. There are winners and there are losers, and the best team lost." And I think that sums up the whole performance. You know what? It was a disappointment as an England fan, because that was not a good game for as England. We were dire. I'm going to be honest. It was not a fun time as an England fan. It was stressful. I think what Nigeria did was they nullified our big threats. They nullified James, they nullified Bronze, they nullified Daly. Funny enough, let Kira Walsh have lots of space, but because the others were all nullified, there was nothing she could do with that space.
How do you feel that they nullified them? Was it the physicality? Because for me, I think it was a mix of the physicality, but mainly, predominantly, if you watched Nigeria on defense, they are such an organized, tight team. Like, the best organized defensive teams are the ones that when you see them playing defense, they are compact. They give you the wing, but you cannot get inside. And that's what they were doing.
Yeah, and I think they tactically did it brilliantly. They double-teamed James, which meant that she couldn't have the freedom that she likes to have and normally has. Like I said, they gave Kira Walsh lots of space, but then they nullified her main options. Her main options are normally Daly and James, and that just didn't happen. You know, I think we were very cautious because a lot of our key players were on yellows, and also Nigeria had that intensity that just seemed to, like, catch England off guard, and they never caught up. Like, the first 10 minutes, England were good. Like, they were threatening, they were going forward, and then Nigeria grew into the game, and England shrank back.
That's funny. I actually had the impression that Nigeria came off from the jump, and England were the team that slowly grew into the game. What do you think changed between last game and this game? Or is it not a case of something changed within the team, just Nigeria played England really well and end of story, move on?
I was going to say, what changed was the opponent. I think, because the system we saw worked, and it works really well. And for anybody, again, who is on social media will have seen somebody explaining to Serena what cat out of the bag means, but they were talking about Lauren James and the fact that for the first 2 games Lauren James was playing, she was a surprise to these teams because they didn't see how we were going to utilise her. So that's how she could come in and score these goals and utilise all of her space and everything else. And Nigeria have clearly watched those last 2 games and gone, right, other teams have gone after, again, Walsh have gone after the midfield to slow down England, and that's allowed them to play on the wings. Let's not allow them to do that. Let's nullify their wings. Let's double team players so that they have nothing going forward. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a brilliant game plan. It was. I'm like, out of Colombia and Jamaica, whoever we're playing in the quarterfinals, do that if you're going to want to beat us, because it worked.
I mean, so we're going to come on to Nigeria in a second, and then we'll get to the hot topics. We'll get to the Lauren James of it all in a second, but we have to continue to talk about the game, and we have to really talk about Nigeria first. But you mentioned that other teams are now game planning for a player like Lauren James. I'm going to throw something kind of crazy out here and say, I think that this Kira Walsh injury could potentially have given Serena Wegman, like, something in the back pocket to use, because now that other opponents have seen, okay, even with Kira Walsh, England are going to come out in this kind of 4-2-3-1, if you will. But this team also knows how to play a 4-3-3. So now you have 2 formations that arguably you can play equally well in. And now it's a matter of, does Serena get to go back and look at the next game and say, okay, well, I can do what I want here. And the other team, they have to game plan for both of my formations.
Yeah, I would. That's the thing, because obviously the fear was that Kira had done her ACL, and we can see that she basically played all of the minutes until they brought on Zellum, because Zellum's a better penalty taker than Walsh. So yeah, I mean, hopefully it would give us a hand up, but I can't see it.
You don't think you'll go back to a 4-3-3?
I think they're going to want something more attacking, especially based on the 2 teams that will be playing, because say, for example, Jamaica's the one that comes out of that Colombia thing. Becky Spencer's one of the only goalies, if not the only goalie that hasn't let a goal in. I think Merps has only let in penalties, like, hasn't got one from run of play, but Becky Spencer's not even had that. So that's going to be a really tight defensive team to play up against, so they're going to want to be more attacking, more forward.
Our Merp's Golden Glove is looking good so far.
The only prediction we've got right.
Or Becky Spence. But let's talk about Nigeria, because they did so many things right. I almost don't have anything that they did wrong other than they had trouble finding the back of the net, but I can't even say they did that wrong. This is very different than like the U.S. was unable to find the back of the net. They played so well. They had their chances, and it wasn't the day.
Yeah, I would say that the one bright light for England, which is unfortunate for Nigeria, was that our defence actually looked tight again. Like, we actually looked defensively tight. Jess Carter had probably the game of her life, not just in an England shirt. Millie Bright is looking more Millie Bright-like. Bronze was there for the clean-up. Greenwood had a great game. Obviously, Mary Earps is Mary Earps. So defensively, we were tight. It was just midfield forward. We didn't do very well.
I totally agree. The back line made Nigeria work to create any form of a chance that they were able to get. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's no discredit to Nigeria, because their front line, their everything was brilliant. Like, just tactically so spot on. You got to talk about like Plumtree, who, you know, the ex-Leicester City defender. Again, I don't think there's a blade of grass she didn't touch. She was up and down on that wing so much and getting in and causing problems. She outran Daly. She outran our wingers because she just had that foresight to like go off them. Their goalkeeper, my goodness, like was just phenomenal.
I want to call it Michelle Alozier as well, because she had, I mean, anybody who watches the NWSL knows that name because she just burst onto the scene so quickly. She is such a talent, and she played out of her mind today. I think that was the best game I've seen her play in a Nigeria shirt. I've seen her play plenty of great games, but she was a standout on a team where, I mean, Payne and Oshuala should be, you know, the headlines, and instead it's Michelle Alozier, and I just want to give her credit where credit is due. Oshuala was incredible, as she always is as well.
Yeah, just like I said, all of them, absolutely all of them. I don't think a Nigerian player put a foot wrong, to be honest, until the penalties.
Okay, so I mentioned Alozier. That brings us very nicely on to what happened with Lauren James deep in the game. In the 87th minute, Lauren James is awarded a red card because she finds herself in a tussle with Alozier. They fall to the ground, and Lauren James kind of falls on top of Alozier. And to get up, she pushes down on Alozier, and when she's up, she steps on Alozier's back and walks off. Straight red card. Nobody's going to argue with that call. She will miss the next game. That's massive in and of itself. I have my own thoughts on this. I want to hear yours first.
So the thing is, she definitely will miss the next game, and if England progress, it could be that she misses all of them, because it's very likely that FIFA will upgrade the card, because they did that with the Nigeria player. They will upgrade it to a 3-game ban. So it is very likely that this is the end of Lauren James's World Cup. I think it's youth. I think it was petulance. I think it was she was getting frustrated. It was 87 minutes. Nigeria hadn't been broken down the way they wanted to. They'd been man-marking her all game, and she was pissed off. And she lashed out. Like, that's what it is. And it's something that will grow from in experience to learn to control that and everything else. But the thing is, it's a red card. Her World Cup is over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unkind to say it was youth, because I think it screamed youth.
Yeah.
This is completely understandable. This is a World Cup knockout game. This is her first World Cup. This game was very physical. Tempers were flaring across the field. You name one player whose temper wasn't flaring, I dare you. And especially on the England team, Nigeria were doing a really great job of staying calm themselves, and they were really frustrating England, I have to say. And they were winning that mental battle, and they were winning that emotional battle, Nigeria were. And it was just Lauren James in her first World Cup competition. Tempers, everything is at its all-time high, and it comes out in a moment where she has no foresight into the future. You know, that is the youth of it. There is no further thinking. It is just emotion. I tweeted something after this happened just saying, like, please don't, attack Lauren James. But that doesn't need to be said to people who, like, follow us. Anybody who's saying that on social media, their followers already know that. So, yeah.
He deleted it in the end, but there was a guy who's quite influential in women's media, and he was like, yes, this is terrible. She needs to learn from this. But I feel like, because there was a very similar incident, and it keeps getting brought back, but there was a similar incident that happened with David Beckham in his first World Cup.
I kept reading this, and I was like, what happened?
Yeah, so he got fouled, and then he lashed out. He kicked out an Argentinian player, got red carded. England went out. So there was that comparison, and he said, but I feel like we have moved on from that, and I feel like Lauren James will get more compassion. And I turned around and said no, because she's got two things going against her. She is female and she is black. The only saving grace she has, that it won't be as bad, is England progressed, whereas in the David Beckham incident, they didn't. And also, what happened with David Beckham, there wasn't a thing called social media. There is now social media, so I think it will be worse. I just think it will be nullified, hopefully, by the fact that England went through.
I certainly hope so. And once England won, I absolutely forgot that happened. So I hope that everybody else has as short of memory as I do. I'm glad you enlightened us about David Beckham, because I probably 90% of people in the US were like, everyone, I keep saying this thing about David Beckham, but like, what happened? I just know him from the guy from the movie, right? He's the one from the movie. You actually have to talk about this, because I was watching it in a bar right next to the stadium, and penalties were happening like 5 minutes before kickoff, and I had to book it. I was like, you got to make a choice right now, and my choice is to go be in the stadium live. So I did not see the penalties. As I walked towards the stadium, I heard a roar, and I knew somebody had won, and that is how I learned. So talk us through it.
So we have to talk about penalties. So the first two, the one for Nigeria and the one for England, were terrible penalties. So Georgia Stanway, I was getting really annoyed at the commentator because they kept being like, never misses, has been so solid for England. And I'm like, well, then she's going to miss, idiot. So, yeah, basically what happened, she skied it. She did a rapino and skied it. And then the same happened with Nigeria. And literally, it was like somebody had copied and pasted the penalty. Miss, in the same direction. It was like a magnet had pulled the ball to the same direction. So that gave England a let off. You know, I'm not going to go through all of them, but like Beth England buried it down the middle. And then Alozie missed. And that is, you know, what's getting people's, like, you know, momentum up. The one you want to talk about is Rachel Daly. Rachel Daly steps up, and the power of that penalty. She steps up, you don't even see her blink. She just buries it, top left-hand corner, kisses the wrist.
Rachel Daly is as big of a big game player as Chloe Kelly is. Like, we all know how big time Chloe Kelly is, and I saw that Chloe Kelly also obviously buried her penalty. Rachel Daly is a big time player. And when Lauren James got sent off, I turned to the person next to me and I was like, this is when Rachel Daly is going to even come more alive. She's going to go in. I'm so happy she's shining right now, because she was kind of hidden in the back line for England for a long time and looked over and glossed over, and she is having a moment, and she more than deserves it.
Yeah. So, you know, Daly buries it. Nigeria score there too. Greenwood gets the one to make it 3-1. Again, solid, does it, set pieces all the time for... Like, the one that had everybody concerned, and she was probably fifth but wasn't needed, was everybody was asking why Oshwala didn't take a penalty. The likelihood is she was fifth and wasn't needed.
Yeah, listen. Or she's just not a good penalty kick taker. This is a very specific skill that it doesn't always translate from being a goal scorer to being a penalty kick taker. It just doesn't. That's why goalkeepers can be good penalty kick takers.
I was going to say, we learned
if
this
they
from
were
Ellen
good
White.
goal scorers, they'd be playing forward. Like, this is a specific skill. So, like, you know, I feel like I understand where people are coming from, but I feel like that's neither here nor there. For me, what the headline is as soon as Lauren James went out, England needed to play for the draw. And I do give England credit for how they were able to play for 30 minutes with 10 players, because they were so fit. They were working so hard, and the game did not change. And for a game to not change, when you go to 10 players, you are working extra time. And I give England a lot of credit because, you know, at the end of the day, if you know you have Mary Earps in your goal, you want to go to pens if you're a player down. And that's exactly what they did. And Mary Earps, we all knew if it went to pens, Mary Earps was going to come out big time, because that's who she is. And that's the moment that she's in right now. And she was reading those penalties wonderfully. So massive credit to Mary Earps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will just finish it with when Chloe Kelly was asked, you know, what you thought, because, you know, ice in her veins just smashed it home. And she said, we didn't think about it as like me taking the final penalty. We as a team, we win together, we lose together, we are a team. And that's all we've thought about is, you know what? We've come from playing terribly to winning, because that's what winners do. Like, yes, it wasn't our greatest performance, but you know what? We're the ones going through to the next stage, and we can only build on from that. And like, that's what the message has come out from England. It's what Daly said. It's what Serena has said, which is, you know what? This wasn't England's finest day. It wasn't. But you know what? We're the ones in the quarterfinals. And that's all that matters.
That's what I said to you, right? I said, hey, you got through, and I don't think that there's a team in the history of the World Cup that has won a World Cup and didn't have a game like that. To win a World Cup, to win 7 games in a row, there's going to be a game where maybe you didn't deserve it, but you grinded through it. And that's what happened. And before we end this, I think I want to end on, everybody's talking about Chloe Kelly. There's this image of her shoving a cameraman away from Nnadozie, who's on the ground sobbing. And there's just been a massive display of a lot of this beautiful sportsmanship amid the players. I think also in a World Cup where we've seen the media be crueler than I've ever seen them be.
I was going to say, extra brutal. They've been extra brutal.
Yeah.
Man.
And it's almost like the players are rallying all together because the media has been so extra terrible and negative. And there was that beautiful moment. There was in the Australia-Denmark game that we're about to come on to that I was at after the game, the Matildas were just hugging a sobbing Denmark defender on the ground. It was beautiful to watch. They just went over and huddled around her. We all know that Aslani of Sweden was quoted, and I think it was Magda Eriksson were both quoted saying, do not talk about the U.S. women's national team. Like, these are players defending players, and I love to see it.
So let's talk about the game you were actually at. Let's talk Netherlands-South Africa, because it looked wild.
I'm so excited to talk about this because this was the first game that I've been to in person, and it was an absolute blast. Before we even talk about the game, because the game we have a lot to say about this game. The 2-0 scoreline does not say everything.
I was going to say it was not reflective at all of this
Very
game.
much not so. But look, the atmosphere was so much fun. First of all, pre-game, I found the Dutch. They are so much fun. I walked to the stadium with them. It was a massive parade. There were drums, there were dancers. Everybody had flags. Everybody was decked out in orange. Just had a blast of a time. Great vibes. And then you got in the stadium, and during the game, that stadium got so loud anytime South Africa had just a tiny inkling of an opportunity, that stadium was about to erupt. And it was I was sitting there like, I think this is a mix of South Africa fans, Matildas fans, and U.S. fans who thought that they were going to be watching the U.S. and are now rooting for South Africa. It also was just everybody rallying behind this team that we know what they've come up against, and we also are so amazed in a beautiful way of what they've been able to do with, what they've come up against. So it was just such a beautiful atmosphere. Everybody was just there to enjoy soccer. There was no animosity, and everybody was so ready. Like if South Africa had scored, that stadium would have shaken. I don't think that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, no, you could feel it. You could absolutely feel it, like, watching it. Both sets of fans are very passionate. I remember the Netherlands from the Euros was always, like, follow the orange. And I saw South Africa versus China, funny enough, in 2019. And again, it was the same thing. It was that passion and it was such a great game of football. It was such a great game of football. A lot of people thought you clearly didn't watch South Africa in that group if you thought they were going to get battered.
So let's talk about it. Do you want to start with the Dutch or do you want to start with South Africa?
Let's give it to the victors for the time being. Because it wasn't the best game from the Netherlands, I have to say.
It wasn't. I was going to say, I feel like this is also the equivalent of almost starting with the negative. I'll start by saying, though, when I was sitting in the stands, I was thinking to myself, I'm so unimpressed by the Netherlands right now. It looks slow. It looks uninspired. And then I kind of paused and I was like, you know what? They are doing such a great job of just taking the energy out of the game, which is what South Africa, one of the things they had really going for them. And they had the fans behind them. And the Netherlands, credit to them, they took over the game emotionally and they knew how to finish it. And that is something that a veteran team knows how to do. And they certainly did. They quieted the stadium. They completely took the energy out of it and they just finished the job.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, they got a very early goal with Joe Rood, who, we love Joe Rood, we do. Some people, I was watching because I've watched the replay and I was watching with some friends the replay and they were like, oh, obviously that's it, you know.
People thought that was just going to be the end of South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa are done. And I didn't know the scoreline. I managed to stay away from the scoreline beforehand. And every time they were going forward, they were scary. South Africa, like, they were going forward, you were like, they're gonna get something. They have to get, like, just, yeah, there was... So the Netherlands, said, they took they moved it out and stuff like that. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this World Cup has been a goalkeeper's World Cup. Like, Daphne Domsela, I butchered that, I know, was made player of the match because she had a phenomenal game.
You know who I think should have been player of the match, though? Because it's not actually Van Domselaar. It is the South African goalkeeper, Swart.
The thing is, though, I have a feeling now they're going to stop giving player of the match to the losing team because they don't want another Alexandra Pop photo. That's my little conspiracy theory, because...
That photo is so sad and so funny.
That photo is cursed. I showed my wife, I went, do you want to see the most cursed image you've ever seen? And it's Alexandra Pop with the player of the match trophy.
That poor woman. Yeah, you might be right. But I think what you're touching on here, in terms of, Van Domselaar and how dangerous South Africa was, when we talk about it in terms of the Dutch, and then we'll move on to South Africa, their defense was shaky at best and absolutely being caught out on that counterattack. I think shaky's a compliment for them. And if I was Spain and I saw that, that is absolutely something I would be looking to exploit.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about South Africa. Like, Netherlands were, yeah. But let's talk about South Africa because, again, it's like just a little bit more investment and you've got another powerhouse on your hands.
I mean, yeah. Look, it needs to be said, this South African team, most of these players have full-time jobs. They have barely been able to play together as a team leading into this tournament, and to come up against the Dutch, who come from a federation that, it's not like it's honestly, it's not like anybody in this world of women's soccer is treated well, but the Dutch do have some of the most investment if you rank everybody. And to come up against the Dutch and to play the Dutch as they did when they've had the adversity that they've had and they've been treated how they've been treated by their federation. This team has almost no investment. Like I said, these players, they play soccer on the side. And like you just said, Allie, imagine what we could have here, what they could be if they could be paid to play soccer. What a novel idea, right?
Right, yeah. Like, wow, actually being a professional footballer, unheard of.
Can I actually add, too, because I posted this on our Instagram, I met a wonderful mother-daughter duo when I was just walking from the bus to the stadium that were from South Africa and live in Sydney now. And I'm so sad because we exchange Instagrams and I just can't find them to tag them. But she was telling me just how important this specific team is to the people of South Africa. This women's soccer team, she equated it to the storied rugby team. Yes. I think they made a movie about it.
Invictus. It is Invictus. It's a huge, huge deal in South Africa, this rugby team. It's massive.
It's massive, and it has so many political implications because it obviously happened around the time that that apartheid ended.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing with, like, Nelson Mandela, freedom and stuff like that. It's a very good movie with, I believe it's Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon.
You mentioned that goal that the Netherlands scored in like the 9th minute, and everybody thought that it was over. But South Africa, first of all, the emotional response was incredible. To go down 1-0 to the Dutch would take the wind out of anybody's sail. They didn't drop their heads, and instead, I think that they arguably were the more dangerous team that half. And I think I texted you this, Allie, that before halftime, they had a few really killer opportunities, and you just kind of knew that if they didn't capitalize on those, like, that was the moment. That was the moment to take the momentum, to go 1-1 into halftime, and they couldn't quite do it. And I think that was the moment that they'll look back on that they missed, because it just wasn't all the same the second half. They got tired in the second half, and I think if they'd gone into halftime with that momentum, we would have had a very different second half.
Yeah, you look at, like, stats, because I love stats. They were basically matching the Netherlands for shots. Netherlands had 14, South Africa had 13. Shots on target, they actually had more. The Netherlands had 6, South Africa had 7. But then the disparity you see when it comes to possession stats, because the Netherlands had 70%, South Africa had 30%, and then passes, the Netherlands had the number of the devil, 666, and the passes, 277. So, but actual, like, progression and attacking stats, they were matching the Netherlands pretty much, which is an amazing feat. It's huge. So, before we move on to next game, we have to talk about Danielle van der Donk and this yellow card accumulation rule, which is stupid. It
is so dumb. I don't know how FIFA haven't changed it by now.
It's
unreal. 5 games?
I was going to say
get 2 yellow cards?
I was going to say, to, like, get so far in. I'm like, I understand getting 2 yellows in the groups knocks you out of a group game. 100%. I'm like, yeah, like behave yourself for, like, 3 games. Like, I completely get it. But to be, like, first game nerves and you accidentally pick up a yellow card because you've done something a little bit rash to haunt you for 5 games? It's so stupid.
In the round of 16? Yeah. For those of you listening, what we're talking about here is obviously Danielle van der Donk picked up her second yellow card, and that means that she will not be available to play in the quarterfinal match against Spain. And that is so huge. And the rules for this tournament say that you have a yellow card accumulation, and it doesn't get wiped until the end of the quarterfinals. So all 3 group games, the round of 16 and the quarterfinals. And if you pick up 2 yellow cards, you will miss the next game. So let me clarify here. Anybody that picked up a yellow card in, say, the first game of the tournament and then also picks one up in the quarterfinals will not be available in the semifinals.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So, talking about now 2 games, we're going to touch on them very quickly because these games basically went the way we thought, which is the ones that involved the teams that had progressed out of Group A. When we did our preview, we were like, well, what's going to happen is the teams from Group A are going to get knocked out in the round of 16. And that's what happened! Spoiler alert!
Yeah. I feel like let's just spend a few minutes on each very quickly.
Yep.
The tournament kicked off with Switzerland versus Spain. Maybe the least interesting game that we've seen across the board.
I'm glad I didn't watch it live so that I could fast forward through things.
It was bleak for sure. I think maybe what was most disappointing is that it wasn't even a contest. I literally tweeted, is Spain more likely to score another own goal or is Switzerland more likely to score? And I think that Spain is more likely to score an own goal. Like, that is that's how it was.
Like, in any other group, Switzerland went home in the groups. Like, it was just so bad. So bad.
Yeah. I had a little bit of a sliver of hope for some reason right before the game started because I had this little, that Switzerland could take it because I had this little moral battle within myself of like, okay, well, I don't want Spain to advance because I don't like Jorge Vilda. And if maybe they get knocked out right now, maybe he is gone. But I also obviously want those players to be successful. So I don't know where I stand with that. I want the players to succeed and I want Jorge Vilda to be fired. But I don't know where that falls in terms of rooting for them in this tournament.
Yeah, it did feel like that. But it was like, yeah, I have nothing more to say, to be honest. It was such a boring game. And like, it was a high scoreline, so you'd think on paper it should have been more thrilling, but it really wasn't. It really
was not. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Japan and Norway, which was a little bit more thrilling, I have to say.
For a moment.
For a moment. You've got notes here about, are Japan the strongest team in this tournament? I agree. I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are.
I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, they are the most clinical team. They are defensively really tight, which we always knew. We always knew that they could do that, but they've now got multiple goal scorers. It's not even like it's all on one player. They've got multiple goal scorers. They are probably now the favourites to win this tournament.
I would agree on all accounts. And I think you said the key word too, which is clinical. That's what they are right now. Norway. Did they solve their behind the scenes issues? They certainly turned a corner before game number 3 and played well in that game and then again in this game, but it just wasn't enough against Japan. And I feel like the most interesting conversation amid all 4 of these teams is in the future of Norway. Is Hegerisa, going to stay around? What is the future of this team? Does it all really hang in the balance of the coaching, or is there more that needs to be resolved?
I mean, Norway's problems have been going on for a while, because we said it in the Euros. Like, they got comprehensively beat in their group. Like, England were good in the Euros. Were they 8-0 beating Norway good? No. No, they weren't, because Norway's thing, I don't know if they have got this, like, hangover of being a powerhouse and they're not quite there. Are we seeing what we saw with Japan, which is your veterans are aging out, but you're not bringing the talent through, which Japan now are, because we talked about how well they did in aged competitions. I don't know. Do I think Hegerisa is the answer? Absolutely not. There is too many players that have been coached by her that have come out and said, like, have talked about how she's not a great manager. She's not very inspiring as a manager. She doesn't bring out something, we've heard it from, like, I think 4 Team GB players now that were like, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience. So I think Norway would be doing their national team a disservice if they keep her on. I get it. She's a legend of the game. But as we've said it before, and we'll say it again, just because you're a great ex-player does not mean you're going to be a great manager. So I don't know where they go. I don't know if they keep looking internally with another Norwegian or if they expand it internationally. But Hegerisa is not it. So, over to the game that you were at. Yet another one, because you're living your best life. Australia versus Denmark. I have to ask, what was it like to be in a home crowd game? Because that must be amazing. The vibes must be amazing.
It was impeccable. This was at the Olympic Park Stadium, so the capacity was like 80,000 people. And it was packed to the brim of 80,000 Aussies, decked out in full Matildas gear, just ready to get behind their team. And it was like, there was a moment where I almost cried. It was a beautiful, beautiful, like, heartwarming sight to see. I love the Aussies as fans. Like, they're really not that rowdy. They'll get loud in the big moments, and then it's kind of, they're just chilling. There was a very cute little girl in front of me who had a lot to say. She was, like, yelling for ref, and everybody around her was like, yeah, you tell him. You're right. That wasn't a foul. It was really cute. There were so many young girls in Matilda's kits. So many. I mean, the stadium was packed to the brim with every type of person you can imagine, and that was gorgeous. And there were also a lot of young little kids, and I think we see that a lot when nations have, like, their moment, like in the Euros we saw that England had their moment. We saw all these little kids. In 99 the moment we saw all these little kids. It was absolutely, it was heartwarming. I don't know how else to describe it other than I absolutely cried at one moment, but we'll talk about that moment later.
So let's talk about the game itself. Let's be honest, the hosts went in as favourites because this hasn't been Denmark's greatest tournament, shall we say. So tactically, let's talk about Australia. Did you feel like they were the strongest team? I know for those listening, they did win 2-0.
Absolutely. I think this was a pretty indicative scoreline of kind of how the game was. Obviously, Denmark had some attack, but it honestly, in my opinion, I guess we can start with Denmark because I think that there's less to say about Denmark. Denmark had some attack. I think it was all coming from Madsen, number 17 on the left wing, and of course Pernille Harder, who I just have to say, that was the first time I got to see Pernille Harder in person, in the flesh, watching her play. And she's one of those players that, you know she's amazing when you're watching her on TV. And then you see her live, and it is just absolutely mind-blowing. She's captivating. It's just so clear how next level above so many players she is. It's absolutely incredible. And Pernille Harder, if Denmark were going to score, it was going to be from something special that Pernille Harder did, and she wasn't able to do it. And I think that that's really the story of Denmark. They were really desperately trying to attack down that left-hand side with Madsen, working with Pernille Harder, and that's really all they had. And it was very predictable, enough so that, frankly, it was almost this duel where Denmark were attacking down the left side, and they were so predictable that Australia were just able to leave Carpenter and Rasso just back. They just left them back a little bit. If you didn't see Carpenter and Rasso high up the pitch like you usually do, that's why. If you were wondering, that's why. They said, okay, we'll just drop Carpenter and Rasso back because this is your only attack, and we'll just leave them back here. And we'll go up on the left side. Yeah, they said, great, we'll attack with Caitlin Ford on the left side. We'll go up with Kathleen Ford. And boy, did that work. And Australia were absolutely able to exploit Denmark. I think I would have liked to see a little less predictability from Australia. I thought they were a little bit predictable as well, but also they were taking what was open, and it was fully given to them. That cross to Caitlin Ford was on all night, and what a game she had.
I was going to say, there's a couple of players we want to talk about. We want to talk about Caitlin Ford. I want to talk about Fowler, but I do want to give a shout out to Rasso because I forgot this, and it wasn't until my darling wife reminded me when we was watching the game, which is Hayley Rasso, by all rights, shouldn't be playing football. She shouldn't be walking again. After the back injury she sustained at Portland, right, where she fractured 3 vertebrae, she shouldn't, statistics say she shouldn't even be anywhere near a football pitch anymore. And for her to come on and have the tournament she is having right now, the goals she is scoring, just everything is it's just giving me life. It really is. It's giving me life. Remind me I said that if we play Australia, but it is.
This team has stolen my heart. They stole my heart a long time ago, but they're so captivating right now in stories like that. I mean, Caitlin Ford, that first goal, that moment where she ran to the crowd and she gestured with her hand behind her ear. So my friend was sitting in that exact corner and she sent me a photo, and the joy that you can see on Caitlin Ford's face is literally undescribable. And it just gives me chills to think about that moment for her and for these players. And I've said it before, but I'm going to keep saying it because I don't think it can be said enough. These are people who do not get to see their family. Their family doesn't get to see them play soccer in person. It is, Sam Kerr talks about how it's 2 years before she goes home to see her family in Perth all the time. And to have these moments in front of their family and in front of the world, I'm literally getting teary-eyed right now just talking about it, because Caitlin Ford in that moment, that was so special. That was beyond words special. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. That type of moment continues to make me wonder if the stars are just aligning for this team in this moment in their home World Cup right now. Yep,
absolutely. And Mary Fowler with the assist, that cross, we knew she'd be special. But the thing is, again, and we talked about it with the US, and we're going to probably have to talk about it with England, is Mary Fowler is playing more football because of an incident that they couldn't have predicted, which was Kerr picking up that calf injury in the warm-up before that first game. Okay, Mary Fowler was not supposed to play as much football as she has in this World Cup. Let's be honest. But she has come out and been like, I'm going to show you what I can do. And just be like, I'm not some knockoff Kerr replacement. I am a talented, brilliant footballer in my own right. She's not getting the respect at her own club. She wasn't getting the respect on the national team. She is now stamping forward. And that I just can't talk about, just so much talent in such a young player. And that assist to get that second goal was just, chef's kiss. It was just beautiful.
Chef's kiss. Mary Fowler needs to go play for a club team where she can start. She is 20 years old, and for her to be sitting on the bench right now during prime years of development, in my opinion, is an absolute tragedy. She needs to be in games, and I think part of why we've seen her grow into this tournament is because she's getting game minutes that she wasn't used to getting. Give this girl game minutes. Mary Fowler, go get those wherever you can get those.
From one baller to another baller. You were in the stadium for the moment when a certain person slipped on a number 20 jersey, and the roar, like, you heard it on the, like, watching it at home, like, the roar when the number 20 jersey came on and Samantha Kerr stepped up onto the pitch. Explain, describe, take us to it.
I don't have words. I have chills all over my body and I have tears again in my eyes. I really wish it wasn't 1 a.m. and I was more eloquent right now, so I'm going to do my best. In like the 30th minute, Sam Kerr just flashed on the Jumbotron, just like having a casual conversation on the bench. And the roar from the crowd, you would have thought that Australia had scored. Like, to say she's big is such an understatement. She is the golden child. And she's also grown up in front of these fans as the golden child for 15 years. And I think everybody was also just... It felt like a joy that wasn't just, yay, we get to see this footballer. It was a joy that was like, yay, we understand how massive this is for you and how special this is for you. And we are so happy for you, Sam Kerr. Like, that is what that eruption felt like. It was just an eruption of pure joy and support that was well beyond the game of football and just getting to watch her run around on the pitch. Like, it was so much more than that. It obviously was that. People were so excited to see her. And I don't know what happened in the game while she was in, because I just glued my eyes on her because I was like, let's look at that cap. I hope that's okay. It was such a special moment. And to see Steph Catley, run over and give her the armband, it's always such a beautiful moment when we see any player, put the armband on another. And that was a beautiful gesture.
Yeah, 100%. So it is great to see her back, and I'm hoping the calf does hold out, because it would be a travesty for us to not see Sam Kerr do Sam Kerr things in a hometown World Cup.
Truly, but I do have faith. There was a moment towards the end of the game where I was like, all right, she's not coming in. It's 2-0. Why risk it? But the fact that she came in at 2-0 when there was no reason to risk it, to me does say, okay, she's actually okay. And she looked good on the pitch. Like, she didn't look like she was hindering it, or anything like that. So protecting it. So, I mean, Australia, absolutely the better team. They advance with flying colors with that 2-0 victory. And they will take on either France or Morocco. And that France and Morocco game we're going to cover on part 2. And that is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, Round of 16, Part 1. Reminder to tune in tomorrow, Wednesday. We will drop Part 2 Wednesday morning for you, back to back. Let's go. And of course, don't forget to follow along on socials. We, of course, thank everybody who donated to get us here in Australia. And we hope that you're loving our content, including, of course, these episodes, which we obviously focus on the most. But we are also trying to give you social media content. So head to our Instagram stories for real-time day of videos from me. And of course, stay tuned tomorrow, because we'll have another one for you. And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.